Welcome to the broadcast tonight, John Cleese. His book is called Life and How to Survive It. His films include Monty Python and the television series that captured so much attention, Fawlty Towers. Also here, Robert Wright, the author of The Moral Animal, Why We Are the Way We Are, The New Science of Evolutionary Psychology. And we'll have a conversation with one of the great theater directors in the world, Peter Brook. We began with John Cleese. He's here because of a book, not because of film or television work, but we want to talk about that as well. I'm pleased to have him here because last night at the 92nd Street Y here in New York with a sold-out crowd, we had really one of the great evenings there. A lot of people showed an enthusiasm for him and engaged him in a series of questions about everything, and it's a pleasure to have him at this table after last night's performance. Welcome, sir.
It was fun, wasn't it?
It was fun. It was great, wasn't it?
Really enjoyed it.
To have a packed house of people enthusiastic to hear you. And as I said to you at the end of that, what really struck me was not only how bright you were.
Well, that's true.
But yes, I know. I should have known it.
Sometimes people don't notice.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
Because I was an admirer of your artistic work, but also some interesting aspects of your own life, which gets me to this book. And what was nice about last night was really interesting, and I thought very candid observations on your own life, but also on people that share the craft that you engage your work in. Life and How to Survive It, written with Robin Skinner, who is a therapist in London. Tell me how you came to write this. No, tell me how you came to know him.
Well, 1975, my first marriage was in trouble. And I realized that this much vaunted English education that I'd had not given
all
me...
the Cambridge time.
All that stuff had not given me one single mental tool with which I could deal with the emotional problems I had at that time. I went to see Robin and his wife, Prue. I had 3 or 4 sessions with them. They said, we think you should go into a group. And I went into a group with 7 other people. I was in that 3.5 years, which is about par for the course. Came out at the end, felt that I got a lot out of it, very grateful to Robin and Prue. And then about a year later, I bumped into Robin, and we started to talk, and then we saw each other again, and we started to become friends. There was a kind of period of a gear changing, going from a patient to a friend. And finally, we became friends, and one day I said to him, let's put some of these ideas of yours, which I'm fascinated with and want to talk more about with you, Robin, let's put them down on paper.
And that was Families and How to Survive Them.
Right, which came out about 10 years ago. Yeah. And ever since then, Robin's been working on this one and doing the research. And then about 18 months before this book came out, he and I joined together and had a lot of conversations. Transcripts were typed out, and then we started rewriting.
The Families and How to Survive Them was essentially a Q&A. And you asked questions of him.
That's right.
That came from your own curiosity.
Exactly.
All right. And this is what?
Well, this has got a little bit more of me in it because there's sections on humor, there's sections on business.
And on politics.
And on politics, which I know a bit about. I've helped the Centre Party in England, and I had a company that made management training.
The Centre Party being Social Democrats? Or,
that's right. Yep. Yeah. So I'm behind them, and please God, the electorate will get behind it one day. Yeah.
You're not thrilled. I mean, I want to just interrupt because I'm actually, the reason I mentioned last night's program because I know a lot of things about you, and some of the things I want to just sort of zero in. You're not thrilled about the politics of your country right now. You're not happy with John Major, and you're certainly not happy with what the Tories have done.
No, I mean, I think they're a disaster. And if anybody thinks that's controversial, I have to tell you they have the lowest poll rating, approval rating, that any government has ever had since polls began in the 30s.
Well, but there doesn't seem to be a huge amount of enthusiasm for the Labour Party. That's not your party as well, although
there's a lot of
Mr. Blair may be a new kind of liberal, or new kind of Labour leader.
Yes, people think that Tony Blair is good news, but there's a general skepticism about whether enough of the very old-fashioned Labour Party is really modernized. And of course, when a party's been out of power for so many years, everybody's a bit worried because they don't have any experience of office. But all one can say about them is they couldn't actually be doing worse than the Conservatives.
Business. You have, this is amazing about you to me, you have been very successful in business. You had a company, you were one of the founders, it was later sold, and you made some money at that. Where does that come from? Because you don't think of someone whose essential skill is theatrical as also being a genius at business.
Well, you wouldn't exactly expect Steve Martin to go off and make a management training.
That's true.
No.
Exactly.
I don't know why. Well, actually, I know why I got engaged.
Wouldn't think Basel.
Basil. Right?
Basil, yes.
That's right. Well, there's two reasons. First of all, I've always loved being around anyone whom I find fascinating, who seems to me to have a great mind, which is why I write the books with Robin Skinner.
Right.
Another great mind, Anthony Jay, said to me in '72, let's make industrial training films.
Yeah.
Is what we called them then. They're management and sales training.
Yeah.
I really wanted to be about him and learn from him.
Right.
But the other thing is, I actually have thought about this a lot. I'm an only child. Yeah. In some ways, a very typical.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ah, well, maybe that's why we
Well,
get
I
on.
find a lot in there that I identify with, but I don't mean...
I think I always wanted also to be a part of a big, happy family.
Me too.
Well, no, not possible. No brothers, no sisters. However, when I get in a work group like the Python team, the Monty Python team, the 40 Towers team, or even the Fish Called Wanda team, I love it. And I think I'm interested in how to create a really positive, happy working atmosphere. You know, it's a kind of a family.
But it's because of this yearning for family.
I think
that
so.
you simply can be a catalyst for
I've always worked in
cohesive
groups.
group.
If you look at my career, it's always been working with a group.
But your skill, your essential skill, your base skill is you are a writer of funny material. And that's a solitary act. No,
well,
not quite so.
Most of my stuff, not Wanda. I wrote Wanda on myself. I structured it with Charlie Crichton, but I wrote it on my... Most of my stuff's been written with other people, because I genuinely have the feeling that if I sat down to write, if we wrote something together, we would get to somewhere that neither of us would get to individually.
Interesting you say that, because you didn't know this. I taped an earlier segment with Peter Brook, who you have never met, which is on this program.
One of my heroes.
Why?
I think his work is extraordinary, and I think that the spiritual background out of which he works is also extraordinary.
Spiritual background, meaning?
He has a great interest in esoteric Christianity, and I think he carries that through his work, and I think that the content of his work is largely determined by the ideas in which he believes.
He said on this program, and it'll be seen later, that the best thing you could hope for is that the end words, the end product, nobody can say, that's mine.
That's right.
It started here, went here, went there, and you ended up with something
that's actually
was clearly...
right. There's a big section in there, because we talk about creativity, and I actually say that if you're working with a good group, and you finish with a great idea, you cannot go back and figure out whose idea it was, because it came out of this animal that is the whole group. And you cannot claim authorship. I'm terribly proud of the fact that Wanda, 23 people wrote dialogue for Wanda.
I should take note of you getting ready to do another Fish Called Wanda, or Fish Called Wanda 2 or something.
Same group.
Kevin Kline will be back.
Jamie, Michael Palin.
Tell me about Michael Palin, in which you have this ongoing gag with him, in which you say, what do you say?
Well, I forgot on that occasion. His real name is Palin, but on national television I always call him Palin, and I'm sorry, I call him Palin just now. It's the one thing I successfully tease him about. And recently, actually, I can't tell you that because he doesn't know the joke yet.
All right.
I'll tell you next time.
All right. Robin Skinner, your experience with him, because I want to get into things that people also are curious about as well, is it changed you how? You became more what and less what?
I think he created with his wife, Prue, an atmosphere in which I was able to reintegrate emotions or parts of my personality which had got cut off because they'd not felt safe originally, which is why repression happens anyway. I was able, for example, to deal with my depression by actually getting in touch with the sadness underneath it, because Robin thinks that a lot of depression is blocked sadness, and if you can actually sit and feel the sadness, then, my God, it begins to shift and go away. And if you can't feel the sadness, you just sit there stuck. So that was a huge help.
And your sadness came from your...
Well, I think it partly came because my first marriage was breaking up, and that's a perfectly good cause to be sad.
Yeah, but you're more influenced by where you came from in terms of
there was also sadness from childhood.
Only child, mother,
That's right,
father.
and I'm sure that that was part of it. And growing up an only child, probably slightly lonely, although I'm not so sure about that. The main thing was I learned how to deal with depression because they gave me permission to feel sad, which, you know, I was an English public school chap. As Basil Fawlty once said, depression, he said, we didn't win the war being depressed. I don't see the point of it, you know. Actually, the point of sadness is that that is how us human animals recover from loss, if we allow ourselves to be sad.
You were also thinking about, I mean, there's so much to get in such little time, doing a film about infidelity or about...
Well, yes, I'm fascinated.
Because one of my other guests here is Robert Wright, who writes about the difference in men and women and infidelity.
Well, I want to write the next movie, not this present one, but the next one about that. And I have a great friend who's a family therapist in Atlanta called Frank Pittman, who's written 2 books on the subject. And very interesting. He thinks infidelity is very destructive. But I said to him, is it basically the lying? And he said, basically, he thinks it's the lying.
It's deception.
Yes, but you know, it's one of the wonderful things about being a human being. You know what I mean? You're going along being virtuous, and then one day you think, oh, that is wonderful. You know?
Now, tell me the difference in Fawlty Towers. Americans say basil.
Yeah, you say basil. We all say basil.
You always say basil. Right.
Say exactly the same as we pronounce the herb, which you call herb.
Herb. And you believe Fawlty Towers is the best work you have ever done. Nothing you have ever done.
At a half-hour length.
At a half-hour length.
Because what a 3-minute sketch requires a completely different approach and content from a half-hour, which requires a completely different approach and content from an hour and a half. You can't really compare them. Fawlty Towers is the funniest that I can be at half an hour.
And it was because you just created this wonderful character who gave you such an incredible opportunity.
And 3 other very good characters. And I wrote it with Connie Booth, my first wife.
Right.
And we both used to cry with laughter. We were like 2 awful gods who were playing practical jokes, and every time Basil nearly escaped from a situation, he'd open the wrong door and the wrong person would be there. We would laugh, but we'd also have this terrible feeling of almost sadness for this poor man, you know?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, of course, people love him, and he's an awful human being. And yet people feel affection for him.
Why is that?
Because anybody...
He's vulnerable? Because he makes mistakes? Or what?
Well, there's 2 factors. One is anybody who makes you laugh, you like, even if they... be awful if you like.
Even if they're insulting.
Even if they're insulting. Yeah. And the second one I've completely forgotten.
Yeah. Well, you only did 12 30-minute episodes.
Yes, only 12.
2 seasons.
6 in 75 and 6 in 79.
And we're talking 20 years ago.
Yes.
Yes,
but not as long ago as Monty Python, which is all I'm ever asked about.
I know.
You know, I come out to talk about the book, and it is quite funny because I did a talk at one of the bookstores, and I talked about the book for 5 minutes, and then we had questions. The book was never mentioned.
Well, of course not, but we've talked about the book here, so give me...
Oh, I'm not teasing you.
No.
But I'm saying that most people are just fascinated by Monty Python.
They are.
Every generation, they replay it again, and every new generation discovers it, which is lovely.
Why do you think that is? What is it about Monty Python? Was it just the...
I think
collegiality, or what was it?
No, I think we discovered in some of those characters we created kind of archetypes. And they seem to be recognizable in other cultures. I mean, the Japanese used to like it. The Japanese, this will make you laugh, Charlie, they used to have a program after Fawlty Towers at which they'd have a professor from Kyoto and a sociologist from Nagasaki and I don't know, and they would sit around and discuss what the jokes had been. And it was very, very popular anyway. Yeah. So but there must be some kind of archetypes that are recognizable in almost every culture.
Why only 2 years? I mean, that was all you had in you? You were repeating yourself? What? For Fawlty Towers. I'm back to Fawlty Towers.
Because, well, first of all, because that second series was the funniest I can be in the half-hour format.
Right.
So why do another series that isn't going to be quite as good? The other thing was that Connie and I both felt we'd done it. Yeah. And we used to say, look, Shakespeare got 4.5 hours out of Hamlet, we got 6 hours out of Basil.
Yeah, just put it in the right context.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's only so far you can mine a character. And then what happens is the audiences, which are very smart, get ahead of you, and they know what's going to happen before it happens, and you're dead.
Yeah. But as soon as you say that, I mean, you said last night that you like Seinfeld, and Seinfeld, they do, what, 12, 13 episodes a year, and they've been running for 3 or 4 years.
Well, that's true, and I've got to say that we do some great original series, but what the Americans can do is they can run things sometimes for years. I mean, Cheers was always funny. It was always original, and you know how to do that, but of course you know how to bring in squads of writers and divide series up. I mean,
but I don't understand. I mean, why couldn't you do that? I mean, you know, I mean, is there no series in England that's run
comedy series tend to be written just by the one or two people that invent it.
You said last night, too, that the British, that there's something about, we were talking about satire, and there's more satire in London than certainly even in New York, and certainly in Great Britain more than in the United States. And one is because of the love of politics, number one. But number two is Brits would rather make you laugh than make love.
Oh, yes. I mean, what I say is that the greatest insult that you can say to an Englishman is say you have no sense of humor. You know, and as I said at the time...
That's worse than saying you're a lousy lover.
Oh, much worse, much worse. And I mean, it's not like that in most... I mean, if you said that to a Swiss, he'd be relieved, you know?
Yes, he would say, thank you very much.
That's right, but the English are obsessed with a sense of humor, and they sort of stand back from everything, and they take an angle on it, and it can be great under certain circumstances until there's something simple to go ahead and bloody well do.
Do the French have a sense of humor?
Yes, I think so. It's quite a mechanical sense of humor. The British sense of humor is a lot about laughing at people's egos. I'm not so sure the French find that as easy.
That's great. That's the reason, yes.
That is the reason.
That is,
sorry.
It is absolutely.
Pardon.
Pardon, Pompidou. Yeah.
Ma faute.
Monty Python and how many, where is everybody now from Monty Python?
Most of them dead. Sadly, most of them dead. Palin is still alive. He's in a home. But we're going to
no,
get it.
I don't mean to laugh. He's in a home? Or are you being funny?
Well, no, he damaged his mouth. You know, he talks a great deal. Yes, he talks somewhere 17, 18 hours a day. Yeah. And he damaged his mouth. He spoke so much. So he's gone into a home for restorative surgery. Yeah. But we'll hope he'll be able to speak again in time for the movie. But the others are dead, I think. Eric Idle died last week. Yeah. Gilliam has died several times recently.
Did you stay in touch?
Gilliam sends me messages.
Terry, he's making movies or
well, over the other side, that's right. He sends me insulting notes by Ouija board. You know,
by Ouija board, yes. Yeah.
Jones is still alive, though. Yeah. Terry Jones, God knows how.
Yeah. What have you wanted to do that you haven't done? Any great dream that
I'd like to write 2 or 3 good screenplays or plays. I'm never envious of actors. I admire them. I get excited by actors.
Do you like performing?
Not much. It's pretty boring.
Why is it boring?
You've been on a film set. My pal Bill Goldman says that the first day on the film set, one of the most exciting of your life. Second day on the film set, one of the dullest. Third, forget it. It's so slow. But writers, I'm jealous always, or envious rather, of people like Stoppard, of Michael Frayn, or William Goldman. These are the people. If I had 2 or 3 major bits of writing for the screen or for the stage, I would feel I'd really accomplished something.
And you could resist being on stage if you could do that?
Oh, I haven't been on stage except for 1 or 2 nights for charity for 20 years.
But I'm saying on film, too. I mean being there as a performer.
You could you never know. Look, we all like attention. Not just us, you know, but clergymen, sportsmen, we all like attention. Maybe if I really got no attention from the public for months, I'd begin to miss it. I'm just not sure that I would. We'll find out.
The book is called Life and How to Survive It. Robin Skinner and John Cleese. Anyone for help? The book. Look, Mommy, I'm chairman of International Consolidated. Let me go forward together by myself. The price of everything and the value of nothing. All change, please. Josh and Ding, who are they?
Josh is Robin's partner now. Prue Skinner died in '87, and Josh walks out with a young artist called Josh Partridge, and Ding is my wife, who is a psychoanalyst. So when we first started going out together, she made a mistake. She always said, "Oh, I'm such a dingbat." So the children started calling her Dingbat. And then we thought, she's a psychoanalyst, and if the patients find out that their analyst is called Dingbat, so we shortened it to Ding.
All right.
Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Is this on television?
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
She'll know. We'll all know. The kids will laugh. Thank you, my friend. Great to see you. Pleasure last night. Coming up, Robert Wright, The Moral Animal and Why We Are the Way We Are. But before that, a conversation with Peter Brook. Stay with us.